Hi, my name is Olaide Agboola, and I am an Under 40 CEO.
The African Renaissance. The concept that the African people and nation shall overcome the current challenges confronting the continent and achieve cultural, scientific, and economic renewal is here, with young men and women taking the lead. Some call them the new school heroes. We call them Under 40 CEOs.
Olaide Agboola is a transformational Nigerian entrepreneur and finance executive who has driven impact across multiple corporations and in various roles: corporate finance, asset management, investment banking, real estate, and now lifestyle development. He is a financial expert and bred investment banker with diverse experience in the full array of investment banking and wealth management services. He holds a Master of Engineering degree in Mechanical Engineering from the University of Sheffield and also holds a Master of Science degree in Finance and a Diploma of Finance from the prestigious Imperial College Business School in London. A man who anchors his values on passion and trust, Olaide communicates impeccably with crystal clear vision for the future is now, an inspiration for the people across Nigeria. He has inspired others by his various achievements, but also by his attitude. His mandate is to make a lasting contribution towards creating a better world. Olaide Agboola is the co-founder and CEO of Purple Group, with a portfolio that includes Purple Maryland, formerly Maryland Mall, Purple Lekki, and other residential developments, as well as lifestyle brand and products.
All right, welcome to Under 40 CEOs, Olaide.
A pleasure, Fab. We've been at it for 2 years. Yeah?
All right, finally we're here.
Yeah, we're ready.
All right, so Olaide, you attended the FACO International Secondary School in Agege, Lagos State. Tell me a little bit about your pre-teen years and growing up in Lagos.
Lagos, for me, Lagos is very key. Lagos gave the foundation of who I am today. In my pre-teen years, I probably left Lagos when I was about 15 or something like that. But prior to that, for me, I didn't rock Lagos as much as people like yourself. I grew up in Agege. My parents, my dad was an high-flying working class chartered accountant. My mom was a teacher. Nice. So I spent a lot of my time reading, and probably over-reading. I had school, I had after-school classes, then I had late school classes.
Oh, wow.
It was 3 in 1.
Wow.
I was always reading for the next 2 years, right? And that's partly because my mom was a teacher. And so I always had some sort of also teachers, most of whom I remember vividly, 1 or 2 I'm in touch with. And yeah, so my growing up preteen years were definitely full of just education, really.
So it was academic focused.
It was pure academic.
Amazing. So you would later leave for the United Kingdom, where you attended the University of Sheffield and bagged your bachelor's degree, firstly in mechanical engineering. So tell me, what informed that choice of course of study?
Actually, when I left at 15, I actually went to the Bella College in Brighton, Sussex. Then I got my place into the University of Sheffield, where I enrolled for a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. But on getting to my end of second year and commencing my third year, I was on the first class honors. So I think I played too much actually, because I eventually came out with a 2-1, which really got me upset. But what I learned was the fact that there needs to be a work-life balance in everything you do. So I play very hard, but I also work very hard. So I'm an extremist in all the things that I do. So I did mechanical engineering, then I was actually asked by the university to then proceed to the master's mechanical engineering, which was the first year in which we were going to do it. So I was one of the first set of people that went through a straight 4-year program into the master's of mechanical engineering.
Oh, amazing.
At the University of Sheffield. Was at the time one of the best mechanical engineering schools in the United Kingdom. And what informed that background was actually Mr. Agboola, who is an engineer. And of course, those were strong role models around me at the time. And of course, I wanted to be like them. And I knew I had what it took to be like them. So I went down the route of mechanical engineering. I did enjoy it, but when I finished off, I now realized that if I wasn't going to be the best in this, then I'm not going to do it.
So was that what informed you now proceeding to get another master's degree at Imperial Business School in finance? A major pivot.
Exactly.
Yes.
So the lack of not obtaining the first class in mechanical engineering and not going into design specifically. Because I worked within a group. In my group was Benjamin Coleman, who is now a top design expert, was Michael Thorogood, top design expert, was Parandam Singh, who is now an MD actually, was knighted by the Queen. And 4 of us were in a study group, essentially. And those were the people that I rubbed shoulders with. A couple of them got a first class, so we're all on track. So finishing out the 2-1 and missing it by a few points was actually very disappointing for me. So and one thing I learned in that process was that I then went on, during that period, I elected to do engineering business with Professor Ridgway, Keith Ridgway, which was one of the best engineering business scholars in the UK at the time. He did work for the Rolls Royce and this like
great.
that. So I'm sure he doesn't know it, but it was one of the reasons why I pivoted. He had fancy cars, he was gathering money in the apartment. It was just good. And at the end of it, I said, if I wasn't going to be a design expert, then I would elect to do the engineering business side. So on finishing, I took a sabbatical year. I had won the role in an election at the university, Students' Union, to be the international students representative, representing all the international students in the university.
And by the way, you were the first Nigerian.
The first Nigerian
Yes.
to take that role. I think I was the second or third black guy to take that role. The first, if I recall, was a Togolese guy called Romeo Chacha. And I ran for elections. And he actually came up with a poster, he came up with a slogan, breaking the ice. That was quite fun. We took the union by storm. And that's practically because they had never seen anything. We brought out the African bongo drums. We had Africans drumming all over the university. They had never seen this campaign style at the university. Very aggressive, very African, very indigenous. And we won the election by a landslide. In fact, we won it on the first count.
Wow.
At some point, they had to also get rid of some of our votes because the English and the non-international were voting in an election that they weren't supposed to, because they just thought, we just love this guy.
Just like this guy.
We're just going to vote anyway. So it was quite an interesting period, and that really informed my direction. And at that point, the momentum was changing. And I got involved in the student union side of things, and then also got involved in the business side of student union. And one thing that triggered me in retail was Coffee Republic, which we introduced into the student union.
Coffee Republic.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was like the first of sold Coffee Republic, first set of Coffee Republic retail stores. And we introduced that into the union, and that was different. because the union ran everything internally generated. But this time around, we're now bringing in a third party into the scheme. And we had quite an interesting turnaround, and I achieved all of the things I wanted to achieve. So I'm sure the next person that followed after me would have had a budget reduction
because of that.
They are turning from an expense account into also a revenue generator, a single revenue generating account. And the last 2 years at the University of Sheffield now set me up to say, you know what, I think we need to go down the business line.
So you won a landslide victory to head and run, the International Students Unit of the Students' Union. Would you say that was your first shot at leadership?
I would say internally I knew that leadership drive had always been there. I mean, I got to the University of Sheffield probably 16, 17, and one of the very first people I met was a gentleman called Charles Eteri. And we were very good friends. And after 3 months, we were just bored and just said, you know what, this city needs a little bit of
shaking up.
So we got involved in the African Caribbean Society at the time at the university. So we threw a house party. We were staying in hostels. So we didn't have a house to throw the house party. So I think we went to one of the senior guys at the university and said, you know what, you've got to give us your house. I don't know how we convinced them to give us, and we need the African Caribbean Society backing to throw this house party. And, we've got to invite everybody. Why the Kenyans on one side, and the Zambians on one side, and the Zimbabweans on one side, and the Nigerians on one side. We need to all come together and form a unit. And that really broke the division between the Kenyans, the Nigerians, and thereafter everybody came together, relaxed, had fun, and we even had people from other universities coming in, and then that set the trend for house parties over the next 3-4 years. And I say this in a small context of house parties as an example, because leadership comes in different forms. Being able to bring people together is actually a fundamental skill that you need in leadership. Being able to get everybody going, because it's in relationship that you build. And some of those relationships that we built then are some of the relationships that we're highly dependent on now. And if you never had those years of just total relaxation, then you perhaps would never have been able to really create this depth of relationships that we all latch on to these days.
Okay, and I'm sure building relationships continued well into your time at Imperial Business School. What were your key learnings from that time at Imperial?
At Imperial, it was very intense. It was almost 10, 11, 12 months of just high intensity, round the clock. I mean, there was literally no room to play. And coming from someone that I enjoyed playing, that set the tone for me in terms of being able to go to 2, 3 a.m. That's where that capability to stretch your working hours over and beyond the ordinary when required. That was where I began to see that the human mind and the human spirit, there's a lot more you can get achieved and get done if you just completely set your mind to it. It's like complete focus. And that really gave me that propellant to thrive well at the beginning of my investment banking career.
Most African students in the West usually have an option to remain gainfully employed in the country of study, but this was not to be the case for Olaide. After a very intense academic program out in the United Kingdom, coming back to Nigeria was inevitable for him. But how did he make that move?
So you would later move back to Nigeria. Please do share with me, possibly using the timelines about your career as an investment banker.
So in 2002, later part of 2002, I spent a lot of time living with a very good friend of mine whom I had met at the University of Sheffield. He had just rounded up his master's in information systems and information management. So we had spent the last 4 years or so together, and he had moved back to London. And he was staying at his father's house, so I went to live with him. I don't think his parents knew or my parents knew.
But you went to the house.
Because they were in Nigeria. And so we lived together, and in that period, we're no longer playing now. We're now strategizing on the direction, investment management or investment banking or trades, or is it entrepreneurship? How should we go about it? What should we do? What are the directions? And we did that probably for about 4 or 5 months. He woke up one day in 2003, and then he said, I'm leaving next week. I was like, what? What do you mean you're leaving next week? He's like, yeah, I'm going. So I walked with him from Paddington, where the property was, took his luggage with him the following week, and went to the train station, and up we went from Paddington Station to Heathrow. And that was it. And I returned to his father's house. It's like, what am I doing? All right, I'm going next week. And that was it.
Amazing. So from 2003 all the way to 2007, what was going on at that time?
Oh, my. It's 4 years, right? 2003, I got recruited by perhaps the greatest investment banker, Mr. Atedo Peterside, ANAP. And I joined the team in the asset management side of the business, IBTC, Investment Banking and Trust Company at the time, which is now Stanbic IBTC today. And then we had a subsidiary called IBTC Asset Management Limited, which was led by one of my greatest mentors till date, Mr. Ian Kasani. I remember we worked round the clock. It was late hours, it was heavy lifting, it was a combination of doing the investment management analysis, the reports, which were manual at the time, and we had hundreds and hundreds of customers and clients, both institutional and individual HNIs, and we had to churn out all these reports, do all this analysis, take all these orders for trading, for non-discretionary positions. And then on that team was a very good senior brother of mine now, Mr. Sheyi Oshike and Mr. Laulu Martins. And we're all in this. It was almost a 4 or 5 man squad. Few months down the line, maybe a year or plus or something, my phone rang. Mr. Ian Kasani called me. ANAP wants to see you. Like, what did I do? I didn't do anything. What did I do? So the panic. But what had happened was that he had actually recommended me to the boss, to the CEO at the time, to say, I think we have a talent in there. I think we could get something more out of this. So he pulled me up. I went up to his office. Of course, I was scared and concerned, like, have I done something wrong? He said all this nice stuff and then gave me the Companies and Allied Matters Act, the SEC rules and regulations, and the Investments and Securities Act. These are fake documents. It's like, read everything and get back to me next week. Like, so he had drafted me to the core team of corporate finance, which is the investment banking and all of those things that I was reading and learning about at the time. And he drafted me to report and work with one of my senior mentors, Ms. Yewande Sadiko, who's currently the Executive Secretary of NIPC.
Okay, so all of this experience that you had garnered had culminated in you know, being appointed as a technical advisor to the Federal Minister of Finance in Nigeria. Now, tell me, how did you secure, you know, this role, and what was your mandate within this role?
From IBTC, I felt I'd done everything on the investment management and investment banking side of the capital markets. I felt I needed to understand the debt side. At that point, I had not even discovered real estate. At the time, there was a strong character called Sonia Ayere, who's now a very strong pillar of support for me. And it was to set up UBA Global Markets, which was going to be the investment banking section of UBA. And I knew he was a debt guy, and I knew he was coming in at the time to look at securitization and mortgage refinancing and all of those exotic debt instruments. We are not plain vanilla, right? So I called him. Actually reached out to him and I said, this is me. I have worked in the strongest place. I've done this. And the only reason I want to work for you is because I want to learn debt. So I was the third person to join that team. Eventually I left UBA and went to Alithia Capital. Their focus was going to be real estate and private equity. So you can see I went from,
yes,
and then that's where I knew my risk appetite was huge.
Pretty high, because you spent just 3 months at Alithia.
I spent just 3 months at Alithia, and then I got this appointment. I think I went to see my dad on a Sunday, and he opened the newspaper and said, Babalola has been appointed minister. So he placed the call to him right there and then said, hello. So I spoke with him. I think I spoke with him at the time as well. And I said, congratulations, blah, blah. If you ever need anyone, I'm available. In fact, I'm willing to come to Abuja and work with you, because this is a national assignment. We got talking for a few more weeks, and the issue was, the government can't afford you, and how do we get this sorted out so you can join the team at the time? So I was saddled with the responsibility of finding a sponsor, so to speak. And for the next 3.5 years, I was working with the Minister of State for Finance at the time, under the Yaradua Jonathan first term administration. My remit was to cover capital markets and special duties for the minister at the time. So I was still doing a lot of stuff with regards to policies and regulations and those things around the Nigerian capital markets. And that, really then set me up for a cross-section of understanding and relationships that I developed in a very short 7-8 years, which was intense, basically. I had 2003 all the way to about 2010 was just intense. In terms of the experience, the people, the various diversification of understanding from capital markets, public service, and to real estate, and which as an alternative asset class. And all of the people that I met along the way, that was just phenomenal. I don't think the last part of it, and the opportunity that was given to me by both the minister and as well as Mr. Kumagba and Mr. Edozie, were fundamental into creating a new human being for the next decade. Hi, my name is Olaide Agboola, and you too can be an under 40 CEO.